Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. It is uh, Sunday, the 24th of August, and about a little after 11 a.m. Let's get started. See if we have any questions. The last couple of sessions, I'll say, I won't say days, dating back to last week, a lot of stuff was said. How do you feel about it? Does it did you are we understanding everything, or do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel what do you feel? A lot of stuff has been said. We are in a great place, I think. But just how does all this sit with you?
Don't
And
everybody speak it.
This is Vermel. Uh, um, Yesterday when before Sage started speaking, I remember like this week has been really chaotic
hmm
and a lot of beer and a lot of I don't know what other words I would use, but in the world of where I work and that I've been traveling, there's a lot of that going on, uncertainty. And the week before that, I had said something about it, and I realized I have to look inwardly and
hmm
kind of calm all that when I'm receiving that from others. Um, I didn't understand at that time that I had picked it up and was carrying it like it was just bearing down on me. But once Sage spoke, I actually have to say there's kind of like this calm that I can't really explain. It's very I feel very glowing from it. Um,
Hmm.
it's very, I don't know, peaceful and comforting is what I'm feeling.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I felt. That's how I'm feeling.
Thank you for sharing. I like the term very glowing. Uh, I like that. That speaks to me. Anyone else?
This is Audrey. Grand Rising, everybody.
Grand Rising.
I have a lot of questions. I don't know exactly what I want to ask. Um, but I kind of agree with Vermel. Yesterday, when we did the meditation, it was it felt different.
hmm
It really did feel different. Um, and I felt like I could get to the point of not being distracted very quickly yesterday. And that doesn't usually happen as quickly as it did yesterday. Um, so it felt different. It was serene. Um, but I just have a lot of questions, not about that, but about everything that's going on. I learned sometime over the course of this past week um, that somewhere around 350,000 Black women have lost their jobs with all this stuff going on. And it just it it just occurred to me. I mean, not that I hadn't thought about it, but on a spiritual level, it just occurred to me that they're trying to wipe out feminine energy in high places. because a lot of these Black women they're so well educated. They're in senior positions all over the place, but they are trying to wipe out Black feminine energy in those places. And I hadn't thought about it like that before. And that kind of gives me pause, makes me a little uneasy. Um, so I have a lot of questions along those lines, but I'm not sure what to ask.
May I speak to that?
Please.
It's not surprising that the efforts are there to eradicate or um, the energy of the African woman or femininity, because even though Black men appear to be ignorant of it, those who run the world are very much aware of the primary source of energy in the African, and this is the African woman, because femininity is the overseer, the nurturer of everything that exists, especially people, because all people had their genesis in the womb of an African woman, which means that any energy that anyone has, its source is the womb of the African woman. And to make an effort to diminish and devalue the African woman is an effort to maintain the bondage of humanity. If the African woman ever quits or ever gives up or ever says enough and walks away, everything is doomed. And that's the objective. However, it's not going to happen. It is no coincidence that the most educated group of people on the face of the earth are Black women or African women who live in this country. And to allow them to continue to have space in high places is a threat to white men. And if you look at history, white men have always directed their brutality towards Black women more so than men. And there are men who would challenge that. Every time there was a Black man skinned or a Black man boiled in grease in the midst of the people on a plantation or wherever, it was geared toward setting fear into the hearts of the Black woman, because she would not want her children to suffer the same fate. So she would teach them to be obedient. So the most traumatic things were directed at the Black woman. So here we are now. We are on this journey, and you can could believe that ever since this journey started, there has been an increased feelings in the hearts of those who are in charge that something is in the midst of change. And in order to stymie that change, they put people in power like Donald Trump, and not realizing that Donald Trump is the essence of what this journey is all about. Meaning, as we learned earlier, a week ago, I guess it was, that we are to embrace the inappropriate energy and transform it into energy that is beneficial to humanity. So don't be shocked about how negativity is being directed toward the African woman. we have an obligation to continue to embrace the realness, the power, the respect that we have for the African femininity. And we must always remember, if the African femininity is the guardian of our soul, and if masculinity is the protector of the existence of femininity, then that says that the African femininity is the overseer of all the energy in the earth. And the African man, masculinity, is the force that ensures that femininity is not debased or devalued. And the way we do that is by holding femininity into the highest esteem and recognizing beyond anything that has been presented to us, recognizing that femininity is the source, the lifeline of everything that is. Does that help you, Audrey?
So you're saying that doesn't really matter? It'll find a way anyway?
Yes, it does not matter. One of the things that we have to embrace is not only knowing that we are Elohim, but we must also embrace the reality that there is no weapon formed against us can prosper. That has been taken totally out of context by Christianity. The weapon that's formed against us is the misappropriation of energy. And the purpose of it has always been the same. And that is to destroy, to maintain, to control the God in this earth. And that has been effective for a period. Now it has come to an end.
You know what? I was thinking the other day about that, that what Bible verse, wherever it is, I don't know. It says the adversary comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah, John. Uh-huh.
And God, when you think about it, it's been white people who, in terms of their attitude toward blacks, it's been to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yes. Think about it.
And
I'm
that,
sorry.
yeah, that just blows my mind. But then they can turn around and say the most asinine things about, being a Christian. Anyway,
Um, that's one of the reasons that we have to allow the ancestors to guide us through the scriptures to see what they're really saying. This is a book of codes, and just anyone cannot decipher the codes. It's a book that was written for the Africans who were going to be enslaved in this country. It was written for us. And just like the different groups of Africans on the continent or in the Caribbean, just like they have their different belief systems that leads to the same end, which means all of them believe the same thing, and that is there is only one creator. Ours come directly from the tool that has been used to enslave us. The tool that has been used to enslave us is wrought with the tools that are necessary for us to free humanity. the observation that you just made is definitely a reality. That's exactly what it means. When you think about it, I listened to this guy some time ago talk about what the ancestors did not leave us, and in essence, what I gathered from it, he was saying that the ancestors did not leave us anything that we have to be ashamed of. And I'll get into some of that in a moment, but I want to make sure that that we are clear with the understanding of the rationale that the ancestors are showing us for the way that white men relate to or seek to destroy Black or African femininity. Any questions or comments? Audrey, is that the extent of your questions or you have more?
For now, yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Ellen, you're welcome. Anyone else? Questions or comments?
You guys, your conversation with Audrey reminded me of something I've been this week looking at the chakras since we talked about the root chakra the other day and the importance of them and pulling them together. And I think I went down a rabbit hole because one of the solar plex chakras, one of the things it talks about was stealing, um, not being a thief and stealing from others, and how that can be a problem and slowing your energy. And I thought that was interesting that I went back and looked at the perspective from the 42 affirmations and stealing and thou shalt not steal and pulling all that stuff together, doing some research. What I saw was pretty interesting, and I think we've discussed this in some, but it says stealing. When you think of stealing, everybody think of materialism, but stealing in its most harmful way is when you manipulate people, when you tell people that something that you know is false so that you can gain something from them. When you tell people something to lead them in a wrong direction, start them on a journey that you know is going to take them in a wrong direction, or you withhold something that you know that doesn't belong to you that would benefit others. So, I just listened to what Audrey was saying, and thievery has been widespread and going on for a long time. I guess maybe we didn't put it in that category, but that's pretty much what it has been. Uh, just taking, using information and manipulating things to get your own way or mislead folks. And I just thought that was interesting when I read it. And I think it just kind of fit what you guys just said.
Well, that's a segue into what I was talking about this African man uh, who talked about what our ancestors did not leave.
Yes, I can barely hear you.
I'm sorry. I was that's a segue into what I was talking about when I spoke of the African guy who was talking about what our ancestors did not leave us, and what they didn't leave us was anything to be ashamed of. We have never colonized a nation. We've never gone into any country and colonized it. We have never stolen resources from any country on the face of the earth. We have never, ever forced a religion on people. Have we fought against each other? Yes, we have. But we have never gone into another country and destroyed them, destroyed their culture, destroyed their artifacts and all that we did not destroy, we stole. We've never done that. There is no record of that nowhere on the face of the earth. We've never, ever forced anyone from their land, taken their property away from them. We've never raped their children and murdered their women. We've never done that. We've never, ever destroyed any culture. Um, we have never created a weapon of mass destruction. None of that has happened. We have not done those things. And that is the thing, that those are the things that our ancestors did not leave us, because we are better than them. We are a people who are a people, we are a people of order, and we do not bring disorder and have not brought disorder to any place on this earth. And you can look at the 68 nations, African nations, 14 in the Caribbean, and 54 on the continent. You can look at all of them, and you will not see any country, you will not find any country that has been ruthless and sought to destroy humanity because of greed. We've never done that. We've never put wealth over life. We have never ever sought to separate people based on uh, them not looking like us. We have never done that. We have never um, instituted a system that dehumanizes anyone at any time in the history of our existence. And we have existed longer than anyone on this earth. And we have never done any of those things. And what we have done is created and brought into existence um, objects that are called artifacts, but in essence, they um, they are really a type of technology that is not understood, a type of technology that has been hidden from the world because of not understanding it. And we have um, we have been browbeaten to the extent that the understanding of the power of our existence has been diminished in our thoughts. And now that we are regaining that, we're beginning to hear more people talk about our ancestors. We begin to hear more people talk about who we are and not only our history, but the nature of our existence. And that is because of the journey that we are on. And we must begin to look at things like that, the technology of Kemet, when we talk about how the hydro, what is it? It's the engineering feat that changed the course of the Nile River uh, for the tribute to Ptah to be established in Kemet. Um, the construction of the pyramids as directed by Imhotep. All of these things are technologies that we have not really looked at. Um, the idea of bringing healing to the earth, the idea of using plant technology to maintain the health of the body. So we have um, quite a history of being uh, benevolent and protective of humanity, of benevolent towards humanity and protective of humanity. Are there any questions about that? Any comments? No questions, no comment? Um,
I
yeah,
had a comment. Hello, hello everyone. This is Sheldon.
yeah,
Um, uh, Based upon what you and Ron just said, to think about when he was talking about the stealing, and when I think about what he was saying, stealing in the terms that we looked at, it was more so material things, which only lied in a sense of his lifetime. But to then steal those things that you just talked about, Pastor Richard, in terms of even the knowledge, what you did was more so gave that fact just by analogy. And the things that we're talking about things that actually transcend a lifetime and is true to who we are in this lifetime, the next lifetime, past lifetimes, et cetera. So yes, just that idea of I was talking about how you can think of the material things, which is, of course, I use and probably most of us on this line have, that is so short and so insignificant in terms of people understanding who they are and or people being in a sense distracted and beginning to chase something that is truly beneath them in a sense, even when it comes to just wealth and minor healing, et cetera, and having we'll say the answers and the power to remedy all of these little small little insignificant things that we kind of got caught up in. And really caught up in another world. And what I mean by got caught up in another world, I'm saying that these were problems that were inherent of the oppressor was actually dealing with, and that was their concern. And so that then became our concern as we lost focus. I'm finished at the moment.
thank you.
I don't know if you're going to say something else, Rep.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say one other perspective that we should address or look at is, getting over. We create this thing of getting over our fears, getting over what we fear, and that process of getting over the things that we fear is also, like Sheldon said, a distraction. So when we look at, these individuals, what do you fear? You've got to get over that to the point of where you truly fear nothing. And I think just things that are given to us, whether fearing each other, fearing lack, perceiving things that are dangerous versus not dangerous, and not seeing the bigger picture. I think sometimes in our own individual lives too, it's like getting over that fear, because we do battle to get over things, but getting to that point to where you fear nothing anyway. And so I think our fears are sometimes a bigger distraction. We look at humanity, and in times it puts us against one another. It's okay to always have disagreement, and so the fear is not in the disagreement. The fear is in not coming to an agreement. And so can you speak to just that part of the fear distracting us in the big picture of things, whether it comes to relating to each other, to fear of being wrong, fear of missing out, and getting to that point of not fearing anything?
Thank you. The scripture speaks of Elohim not having fear. When it talks about God has not given us a spirit of fear, but one of sober-mindedness, one of seriousness. Fear and knowing that you're Elohim, those things are inconsistent. Those things are not, you cannot believe that you're Elohim and still exist in a state of fear. Will fear come to you? Yes, but you don't have to give it space in your life. Lock your door to fear. When it comes to you, keep it outside of you, as opposed to are entertaining or embracing it. Why? Because you being Elohim have no fear of anything, because nothing can harm you. One of the greater fears that we have is that we're going to lose things that are material. We're going to lose money. We're going to lose a house. We are not going to be able to purchase or maintain that kind of thing. Those are the fears that have been woven into our lives for the express purpose of keeping us distracted from what's real. And if it had not been for the Creator allowing the space for Donald Trump to be elected, we would be still following the pathway of fear of losing something. Now that we see, regardless of your walk in this life, anything that you have can be taken from you, whether you like it or not. What is that? What is that to feel when you know who you are? Being Elohim is all powerful. Reappropriating the energy that has been stolen to enslave us tells us that we have the power to do anything that we put our minds to, but it cannot be for personal gain. It has to be for the benefit and balance and stability of humanity itself. Even though there are people who are seeking to instill fear in us. The there's a group of men who are super rich, and they are creating environments that will invoke fear if we don't hold dearly to who we are. Matter of fact, COVID was a fear tactic. And as I said to you during that course of COVID, I was not taking any injections until I saw wealthy white folk take them. And now I'm not taking any. And because I understand that in the beginning, it becomes a major thing and everybody gets injections to be protected from it. And then it becomes more of a money maker and an opportunity, or giving them an opportunity rather, to slowly kill us with the chemicals that they put in those injections. And there's no doubt in my mind, call me conspiracy theorists, that's fine. But I believe with everything in me that when they used the RNA in creating these vaccines, they were also using the RNA now to code the DNA, and if they can do it to attack a virus, they can do it to attack you. And there's no doubt in my mind that that is in process now, because of some of the things that I have gleaned from different people who were in the presence of Bill Gates talking about depleting the population on this earth through vaccines and other methods. One of them is that the vinegar. What is it? Come on, talk to me.
Apple cider?
Apple cider vinegar. Yes.
Okay.
There is something in it called appeal or something like that. And it has an adverse effect on your body. It was one of the best things for your body. But now that Bill Gates owned the factory, owned the production of it, is something different. So anyway, I'm not saying this to cause you fear. I'm saying this to show you that there is nothing beyond the antics of a white man to make money and to kill people in the process of making that money. I do not trust it at all. And this is not painting all white people with one brush, but this is talking about the majority. Muhammad Ali said that, I'm sorry, ST, before I go into that, let me ask you, does that cover what you were asking?
Yes, because one thing I get the sense that you know, people as a whole, we want control. We don't. There's a fear of losing control, and I think just from even some of the comments this morning, you just sense that the thing we have to just know who we are. We are Elohim. Is overcoming the fear of the unknown, of like not being able to control what's coming down the pike. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like you said, I mean, like, there's no fear in our true identity, and tapping into that is the thing that gets us to the point of I'm gonna say not caring, but not worrying about the results, because you know who you are. And I think that's with the environment right now in the world, it's just people what's coming next, and you shouldn't have to worry about what's coming next. Just being in the present of knowing who you are. But I'm glad you explained that.
Thank you, SC.
Can I ask a question on top of that, please, before you go any further? Vermil, when you first started, you mentioned a fear, and I meant to come back to that. Does that answer your question as well, or are you talking about a different source of something that has hindered you?
No, I think I am talking about that because even if you're taking because of what you see and sense around you and what people are saying,
Uh-huh.
I think there's a part of me that entrenched in it. So that's really insightful for what we were just discussing about fears and what I should do with that thought when it enters my mind.
The greatest fear that people develop is fear of losing money, losing material stuff. And George, you can come back. I'm gonna be finishing on it. And that's one of the reasons I don't talk about money a lot. Because if people understood the true essence of how money is used and appropriated, it would scare the hell out you. If you knew the true nature of it and how it is really used in this society and how it relates to you as an individual as well as to us collectively. So there are some things that I listen at the ancestors, and I won't talk about them because I don't want them to become a distraction to you. And it's because of fear. Thank you, George.
Yeah, grand rising, everyone. Ron, I'm, happy that you brought back up, Vermel's question in terms of, what she was experiencing. And I'm, grateful, to Vermel, because I believe that the ancestor, the spirit of intimacy of our ancestors and the creator has embraced us very strongly. And I believe that because of Vermel's desire, to be able to be in meditation, to be in that thought of affirmations with regards to any, distractions or whatever might have been that past thought. And so to be able to see that again, this is just another way of us using our perceptions to be able to appreciate, moving from that which may cause confusion or chaos, but be in a position, of knowing that you have the power to be able to continually speak your affirmations. And I think all with what is being said gives all of us an opportunity because as Audrey mentioned and alluded to the scriptures, there are scriptures that we've all have maybe read or have meditated on. And so when Audrey was talking about, John 10:10, it made me just think about the thief cometh not but for to steal, kill, and destroy, but I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. But who was the I? And I think that that's what ST, I guess referring to too, when you know, then, how do we offset that by being able to look at the scripture, again, Pastor, that you mentioned in Second Timothy, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but he has given us, the power, in terms of a strong mind. And so when we come back again to talk about to know thyself, it just helpful when we can have those meditations and those affirmations that can help us to see the light, see the energy, because that was the last point I just want to make in terms of Pastor, when we have Jeremiah 29:11. And we read that before. We talked about that. But when, Jeremiah was speaking about, for God said, I know the plan that I have for you,
Mhm.
plan of peace and not of evil, but to give you an expected end.
Yeah.
I know. And to know is to be assured of, to be certain. And so when we come into that knowing, then that helps me, to be able to, again, think of, as Ramel was saying, how do I offset that? And so I don't know, Pastor, if Jeremiah 29:11, I know it's a scripture, but are we interpreting it the right way? But I just think the purpose of knowing is very important. I'm sorry, I just want to share those thoughts.
No apologies. Yes, we are knowing. For some time, I've talked about the difference between knowing and having faith. I don't have faith. I know I have a knowing. Faith is always looking for something to happen. Knowing is embracing that it is already happened. You cannot talk about everything is in the now without embracing knowing. If you are embracing faith and talking about the now, then your expectation is for everything to be in the now. But when you say then you know there is only one period of time, and that is the now, that encompasses everything that we call past or future, and definitely the presence. So that's we are looking at it in the right way in terms of the message there.
Yeah, we studied that a couple of times, and that's one of my favorite words in the scriptures. And Adam knew his wife. Uh, it's talking about a place of intimacy. So you have when you talk about knowing, you're talking about yourself. I've had these journeys within that I have been truthful to myself. I am truthful for what my desires are. I am seeing truth when I recognize that I am Elohim. This has been a part of my journey. This is my intimacy. This is who I am. So as I stand in this place now, not only do I look at the past and know that it is now, not only do I know whatever a future looks like, it is now because I know.
I
I,
know.
yes, very powerful.
The
There's Grand Rising, everyone. Hello?
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, Grand Rising, everyone. There's so much uncertainty in the world, not just here, but in the whole world. And that uncertainty is not the knowing. And unless there is a group of spiritual beings who understand the knowing part, there will not be a counterbalance to that uncertainty. And it doesn't mean that there needs to be the same number of spiritual beings who know who they are. They understand who they are. They understand their connection with the universe and with every living being, and even every non-living being in the universe. Unless there's that group, there's no counterbalance. And so I've heard what everyone says, and and agree with everyone. We've got to get to that place where even if we allow the uncertainty to creep in, we know how to center ourselves. That's what we've been talking about. How do we center ourselves? If something happened and you say, oh, what if? No, don't do that what if thing.
Yeah.
Go meditate and center yourself, because we are doing it not on our behalf, but we are counterbalancing the uncertainties worldwide. And who knows, universe-wide. We don't think about that either. But that's my concern. That I want to fight. No, let me. I pull myself back to the centeredness every time I feel the distraction or I see distractions, because I understand the gravity of my role, my job, my being is to counterbalance uncertainty in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My experience with yesterday after we got off the call or Zoom, my experience was one of feeling or experiencing a sense of collective centering, meaning that we were centered yesterday collectively.
Yeah.
And it gave us the opportunity to wrap our arms around all of the energy that was appropriated by Freemasonry, that is still was being used to this day to create the environment that the world has to endure. Our being centered with our desires, we have already appropriated that energy. The results of our embracing, our appropriating, our realizing that this energy belongs to us, we will see the results of it in the next 3 months, beginning in September. Because the underpinnings of this government, the church, the underpinnings of it crumbles when we embrace and reappropriate the energy that has kept it afloat all of these years. There are going to have to be choices made. Choosing what you're going to embrace, who you're going to embrace. You can't have two beliefs. You can't believe in the Christianity that we were taught and at the same time believe that you are Elohim. Because the Christianity that we were taught says that it is impossible for us to be Elohim, yet the sacred book says that we are. We have to be truthful about the source of our beliefs that was supposed to have been taken from the Bible or from the sacred writings. The sacred writings were manipulated to enslave, and now they're being disentangled by us for life, so people can live a life of stability. Stability comes when those things that have created instability exist no more. And those things that has perpetuated instability must crumble. And when they crumble, we're going to feel it. And the reason we are going to feel it is because we have been a supporting force for these untruths that we were taught, that we were indoctrinated with. We are going to feel the brunt of it. However, we who know who we are the burden bearers for those who become dismayed because they don't know what to do next. We must make sure that they take our yoke upon them, meaning that we become yoked together so that we can be their burden bearers, we can be their source of strength, their source of encouragement. Because, quite frankly, if we look at the reality of who the children of Akabalon are, we are a type of spiritual technology that has been enslaved for the purpose of enriching others. When I say that we are technology, I'm talking about when you look at the functionality of melanin, when you look at the concept, well, not a concept, the reality that without melanin, there is no life. Without melanin, there is no growth of anything. Everything dissipates in the absence of melanin. Even those who don't have melanocyte, and the melanated people are the ones who keep them alive. Because melanin activates everything. That's why I say that we are a type of spiritual technology. Everything that we touch, knowing who we are, comes to life. The reason that we have invented everything is because of the spiritual technology that we are. Regardless of how, quote unquote, poor materially we were able to not only catch up, but surpass every community in this country. No matter how many times we were burned out, no matter how many times that destruction took place in our communities, we thrived anyway. In order to control this technology that we are, assimilation took place under the guise of integration. And it was to control this human technology that we are. And the reason I use the word technology is because in today's terms, we see technology as being able to accomplish all sorts of things, when in reality, it's actually God, the mechanism of God or the functionality of God. That's who we are. Nothing exists in this earth without us, without us being who we are. Think about this. All the things that we were able to accomplish, all the things we have been able to do, not knowing who we are, how much more can we accomplish knowing who we are? We talk about travel through the universe, and we have been taught to believe that those are conspiracy theories, that no one could possibly have done that. But the doggone proves us wrong every single day. See who you are. Seeing who you are, you must also see those things that Elohim has brought into existence in this earthly environment, in spite of all of the anger and hatred and desires to destroy us. Think about how we are able to do things, to accomplish tasks that cannot be accomplished this day with the technology of men. I am talking about the technology of gods. I mentioned the technology of the Ankh yesterday. Please understand that the Ankh is not the opposite of the cross. The cross is a source of death, punishment. Has nothing to do with the life, the eternal life, the everlasting life, the earthly life that the Ankh represents. Sustaining life both physically and spiritually. Speaking to longevity. Speaking to divine power. During my deep dive into understanding the nature of the Ankh, I found something that I had never seen before. That is, and it wasn't recent, but it was some time ago, that the Ankh can only be activated by melanin. That being said, that being true, then how can we possibly say that it is not a type of spiritual technology that has created a space for everything above to be, everything below to be just like everything above? As above, so is below. There are many things that it represents, but the major thing is life itself. If melanin activates it, how much more does melanin activate us? And when we truly embrace that we are gods, we are Elohim, one yet many God. That's who we are. When we embrace that truly, we are activating the melanin that we are. Melanin is not in us, we are it. Energy is not in us, we are it. Breath is not in us, we are it. When we embrace the reality that everything is us and we are everything, because nothing has life without us, that's indisputable. When we understand the magnitude of what that says, overnight, we change everything. And I'm saying to you that everything that has ever needed to be changed has already been changed. The moment that we embraced the energy that had been stolen, the moment we brought it home, is the moment that change took place. The manifesting of it in this earth comes as those things that have been an impediment begin to fall, begin to cease to exist. I'm not talking about structures of buildings. I'm talking about spirituality that has been perpetuated by the church, with this foundation being in the Vatican. I'm talking about not only Christianity, but also Islam and Judaism had their origin in the Vatican. All of that came from the same place. And none of it is holy, and none of it is spiritual. None of it is godly. All of it is greedy and manipulative. When we embrace all of these things, that's when we begin to see a shift in the mindset of the majority of the people on this earth. Don't understand how we can consider ourselves a minority when we are over 1 billion strong. I say to you, hold fast to who you are. With every breath, know that you are the spiritual being that's keeping the body alive. You're not the body. With every breath, remember where you came from. You did not, or you were not mutated at all. You came directly from the Creator. And everyone and everything else came from us. Remind yourself of that. When we do, we see the reason that we've never colonized, we've never created a weapon of mass destruction, because all of these things are geared toward manipulating humanity, destroying humanity. That's why we have never done these things, because we are not the destroyers of what we have brought into existence. We are the sustainers of it. And even not knowing who we are, we have sustained this world simply by virtue of being here. Questions or comments?
Grand Rising family, this is Kathy. Pastor, I have a question. I say I shade to everything you just said. I agree wholeheartedly. But it started me to thinking while you were talking about Ephesians 6 and 12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And then it lists the things, spiritual wickedness, principalities, all of these things in high places. For the first time, I've always seen that as something external that we were dealing with. But in listening to us talk today and being reminded to hold steadfast to understanding and knowing who you are, I now am beginning to think that this wrestling match, that is describing the internal struggle that we face to hold on and to know who we are and to be who we are. So could you speak to that a little bit for a moment, please?
Yes. We're not wrestling against Donald Trump. We're not wrestling against the Pope, flesh and blood. We're wrestling against principles within us that had their genesis with those who are flesh and blood. The principles of Christianity, the principles of capitalism, the principle that made us ashamed of who we are, the principles that made us comfortable when we saw others with money, believing that that could be us too. The principles that made us more materialistic and spiritual. We are wrestling with those types of principles within, or we have wrestled, I should say, with those principles. That wrestling match is over with because the strongholds that we had internalized no longer exist in us. We have purged ourselves of these principles that occupy high places. We have pulled them down, meaning that they have no charge over us. It is impossible for us to know that we are Elohim, for us to appropriate the energy and still have the strongholds of destruction lording over us. We have interludes with the indoctrination that we receive through education, Christianity, etc. But they are not the principles that guide us. And if you really think about it, they have never been the principles that guided us, especially when it came to humanity. Because if they were the guiding principles in our lives, we would not be as forgiven as we are. We are the most forgiving people on earth. Because those principles that we have been indoctrinated with, we don't live by them to the extent that they cause us to be adversaries of humanity. Adversary to ourselves, but not to humanity. Does that help you, Kathy?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No questions, no comments?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
This is Audrey. So listening to you talk, it made me think that, and this is my question, is it the melanin that gives us our resilience?
Yes.
Because we always seem to come back. We always seem to pick ourselves up and move on to the next thing.
Melanin is a physical manifestation of spiritual life. in that it cannot be destroyed. You can't kill life. Life does not die. Everything is life. So yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Question. Rev, this is Charles. I hope this don't take us off the subject. You remember this scripture? It says, I had it in my mind, but I got it. When Jesus sent his disciples out 2 by 2, and then he was telling them, don't be like a serpent. I'm thinking I'm quoting it right, but be humble as a lamb.
As a dove.
Yeah, dove. So explain that to me with our situation that we're dealing with today.
You are being taught the concept of deliverance. You're being taught to recognize, to embrace who you are. And in doing so, you have the power to destroy or to give life. You make a choice whether you're going to destroy and be destroyed in the process. And I don't mean physically, I'm talking about the concept of who you are being destroyed within you. Or you're going to be harmless as a dove, meaning that regardless of what comes your way, you're not going to be destructive towards it. You're not going to be like the serpent. You're not going to be deceptive. You're not going to slither around behind the back of humanity, meaning that you are manipulating people from behind the scene. And when you are talking with them, you are being deceptive in that rather than telling them the truth, you make it up as you go. And we see that constantly in religion. So when he talks about going out two by two, he is talking about you partnering with yourself. You have a choice. Remember, he said 2 by 2. And then it says that you have a choice to be a serpent or to be harmless as a dove. So that is a mindset being developed. And the question is, which mindset are you seeking to have developed within you? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a whole lot of sense. And furthermore, it would never say it like with the way you just put it now. It was always said a whole lot different to make you think about it's a physical thing instead of a spiritual thing.
And in saying that, Charles, please hold true to understand this. All of us must understand this, suppose, that every time it talked about that, it was always men. It was always masculinity. That's the manipulation of the scriptures that is taking place. That's the manipulation of the sacred book. That is why we had to embrace our ancestors so we could get clarity to what's being said in the book of sacredness. Thank you.
Say that part again, Pastor, the 2 by 2. I
2
want
by
to,
2 is your
I
personality.
had not heard that before. I hadn't thought it like that.
It's your choice. You can be a serpent or you can be a dove. We have chosen to be harmless as a dove. We're not trying to deceive anyone. We're not trying to manipulate anyone. We are being who we are. Who are we? We are Elohim. Why is it that doves are always divine because of their gentleness, because they are used as messengers. Does that help you, Ron?
Yeah, I want to look at that again, though. I like that.
Okay.
Pastor, what is the 2x2 word again?
So the two by two is talking about the duality or the personality that you choose. You can be as deceptive as a serpent, or you can be as gentle as a dove. That's all up to you. And that happens as we journey, as we take this journey towards balance and knowing who we are. We have decisions to make. We can remain in religion, or we can continue the journey and be as harmless as a dove. And there are those who started this journey with us, and now they are in the midst of religion, and they have chosen to be deceptive as opposed to being clear, honest, and open with the truth. Audrey, does that make sense to you? You're muted. You're still muted.
I don't know what's going on with Zoom, but anyway, it does make sense. But does that also represent masculine and feminine energy?
That was my first thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either way, there is a confluence of the two energies, because nothing can exist without masculinity and femininity. The question is which one is dominated by masculinity. And we know that manipulation is dominated by masculinity because it's the manifestation of it in this world as we live today. Harmless as a dove, it is dominated, or it is a one with, I should say, because there's no domination. There's two different roles. That is masculinity and femininity working in unison with each other, being what it was created to be, balanced. Makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, you mentioned that when they were sent out 2x2, the scripture implied that it was men, but
Yes.
was it also women? And it must have been, because there were lots of women who were
Yes.
there and who were also getting the message.
Just like there has been an attempt to erase us from history, there's also an attempt to erase femininity from the Bible.
Yeah.
Very successfully, because that's part of the reason we have the mess we have.
Yes. However, the mess we have is a mess, truly a mess, but it's necessary. Without this mess, we will not complete the journey of Elohim, and that is created in our image and likeness. Without this mess, there's no substance for creation by us. And you see that. We have to do it. I don't look at what we are dealing with as an adversary. I see it as an asset, just like I see the personage or the energy that Trump represents as an asset. Without this asset, we would be still living in a world of fantasy. The mess that we are in is an asset because it pushes us, first of all, to know who we are, to understand what that means, to see humanity in a different light, to note the place, the origin of manipulation and why it is so powerful. All of this we've done. And now, here we are, created in our image and likeness. Because we know who we are, because we understand the essence of the power that we have been endowed with, and we understand the purpose of it.
I want to thank Charles for bringing that question up again, because the first time I'm seeing it in a different way, as it relates to not necessarily going 2 by 2 as men, but we have to take our balanced approach wherever we go. And that balanced approach consists of masculine and feminine energy within us, which helps us to discern, to make righteous decisions, and to move on when we know that's in the best interest of humanity, or to do those things which are righteous in the best interest of humanity. So I'm seeing the 2 by 2. Additionally, I'm seeing the 2 by 2, as you have said, as masculine and as the femininity, that's masculine energy, the balanced approach within us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Barbara, with that statement, we had an experience where Pastor and Levon and myself had went to the Liberty Bell, and what had transpired was there was some documentation that was written regarding, African history, and it was basically it wasn't there the first time we visited. We went back a second time, and we noticed that they had, again, documentation in reference to African American history. And I think just last week or the week before, with Trump, they are in the process of removing it again. And I think the reason why I'm bringing that up is because when, again, Barbara just talked about balance, how do we see it? And I think that is just subliminally things are happening where they want to remove history in terms of what all that's getting ready to transpire in 26, as far as the 250th celebration of our nation. But more importantly, what is not being shared when we talk about truth crushed to the ground shall rise. Even though they're removing it, it's those of us who know the truth. And I think to be able to have that kind of experience was definitely helpful, because I think the balance was there, that again, we all saw it in different ways, but more importantly, the history is being removed. Well, in their mindsets, that we're not paying attention to it, if that resonates at all, with you, Pastor, or anyone else.
It does. It does. There is a buildup. There is a buildup that's taking place. Before I get into that, let me say that it just dawned on me that it would have been fruitless for us to have gone to Independence Hall without Levant. Femininity needed to be there. And I don't believe that it was there to birth anything except silence from the African. Now let me get to the build-up. You'll see what I mean. There is a build-up from the internet to various museums removing the history of us. And the build-up is to the African American Museum to remove from the African American Museum everything that has spoken to lynchings and slavery and anything that this country has done to us, with leaving only the entertainment portions of it, which were upstairs, in an effort to antagonize us to the point where we spill into the streets in protest. I believe the silence that was birthed at Independence Hall will also filter into the African American Museum to the extent that we recognize what's happening and still stay at home as opposed to spilling into the streets. These efforts, yes, they are to purge us from history. But the most important thing to them is to get us in the streets so that martial law can be imposed. We are a wall of spirituality that stands between the noise that's being made about our history and the silence that is keeping us at home. The spiritual nature of who we are, that we put it in the macro, and it's being embraced in the macro in a silent way. It keeps us in the pilot's seat. White men believe that the only way that you can overcome anything is to kill it or to threaten to kill it with weaponry that they have developed. We as Africans know that we don't have to move from our couch to change things, because we have a history of changing things by being one with our ancestors and honoring our Creator. Now, that history of the continent, that history that we brought from the continent with us, is taking root. And now it has elevated in growth to the space where our silence speaks louder than any atom bomb, speaks louder than any nuclear bomb, speaks louder than the loudest voice, while at the same time being silenced. That's who we are. And we are seeing our spiritual desires in action every single day. It seems like a minor thing that we are not in the streets and no one is calling us to be there. But that's major. I am shocked. Well, let me put it this way. I was shocked. I really was shocked to hear Christian African preachers saying, don't go into the streets. Then I thought about their source, and the source is the macro. Because if you really know anything about our history in terms of protest, the moment that Kamala Harris lost, we would have been in the streets, but not now. It's not going to happen. And then we also were shown something else. There were millions of white women who were in the streets in 2016. And they were in the streets for one reason: abortion. That was the only issue. They were not in the streets because people are being mistreated. They were not in the streets because Africans are being dehumanized. They were in the streets because of abortion. Nothing to do with life, but abortion. Am I saying that no one should have it? That's not what I'm saying at all. But I am saying, look at the energy that propelled them to the streets. It was not for the uplifting of humanity at all. Therefore, we should have no expectations whatsoever for white women to birth anything other than what we are experiencing right now. It's on us. And being on us, we have done our due diligence and we continue to do that. And we have brought into this world stability that this world has not experienced. And it's a shame, but it's the truth. You only see stability when you see the demise of those things which created the instability. Does that make sense?
Very much.
Very much so.
Yes.
Thank all of you. I'm done. Unless there are questions or comments.
I only have one comment, Rev. That when Barbara was saying she was glad that I brought that up, I'm glad that the ancestor deal with me like that, because sometimes I don't be reading. I be sitting and watching television, and those questions come to my mind. And then I go back and try to find it in the Bible, and I does. And I be saying, wow. And I mean, a lot of stuff does that to me. And then I have to bring it to the class. And that's how y'all get these questions from me.
Keep watching TV.
I
Yeah.
say,
Because those questions are probing questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good place to take a pause, everybody. Any other questions or comments? Good job. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and look forward to tomorrow evening.
Thank you.
All
We'll
right.
see you tomorrow.
Thank you,
thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Mr. Charles.
Take care.
Thank you.